level. For more on this, we're going to bring in Dan Geltrude, who is an adjunct professor at Montclair State University. Welcome back to First Edition, Dan. So nice to see you.
Good morning.
Great, Dan. So can you explain the president's remarks?
Well, it's always hard to interpret exactly what Donald Trump is thinking, but how I see this is Donald Trump certainly had a strong economy going. That's a fact, whether you like Donald Trump or not. And COVID changed all of that. And what happened from that point on, we became very dependent on spending. We became basically an economy that's debt-fueled, and we haven't stopped since that point. We are addicted to spending. We are government-dependent. That is a very, very dangerous place for us to be. So I think the way Donald Trump is looking at this is to say, unless we have some changes here, which likely are not going to happen, he's going to inherit a really big mess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dan, you just mentioned, we're addicted to spending. And you talked about the debt. Well, as of last month, the total public debt outstanding is $34 trillion. Our credit card debt historically just passed $1 trillion a few months ago. So Dan, Donald Trump went on to say, that the economy is so fragile right now, it's completely running on fumes. Do you agree with those statements?
Well, yeah, I do, to the point where we are in a situation where we actually don't know how to do things ourselves. Being completely reliant upon the government, that's not capitalism. That's socialism. And unless we do something where we're gonna change direction here, a crash is gonna be certain. When that happens, how that happens, no one really knows. But we cannot sustain this type of debt. $34 trillion is an unconscionable number, and it's growing. So there has to be an end. Either we take control or we cede control to whatever happens next.
Yeah. Okay, so Dan, you just mentioned a crash. So in your expert opinion, when it comes to this, do you think a crash is likely?
I think a crash is certain. I just don't know when, because I don't believe that the government is going to change direction and stop spending anytime soon. And given that fact, we will get to the point where the weight of the debt is just too much. And I don't know what will happen, and I can't even describe what a crash means. All I can tell you is it will be a global financial disaster.
Yeah.
So you actually agree with President Trump, Dan, in terms of the current condition of the economy, the track that we're on. If you were actually running for president, you would want the crash to occur under the last guy and not inherit that mess. That's exactly President Trump's point. He doesn't want to carry that burden. And the fact that you mentioned the national debt, as Alex just mentioned as well, the thing is, in order to get the economy back on track, what do you need to do? Sometimes you need to allocate more spending. Oh, my goodness, I just said it. Where do we go? Both tracks are not optimistic here.
Exactly. Look, when you have that type of debt, there are just two ways to get out of it, or a combination of two ways. One, you have to generate more revenue into the government. Now, either you're going to stimulate the economy to do that, or, dare I say, you have to tax more. On the other side of the equation, you have to lower your spending. So it's a combination of increased revenues and decreased spending. Now, nobody has seemed to be able to get that formula. We have been able to increase revenues sometimes by stimulating the economy. Therefore, people are making more money and they pay more taxes without having to increase the rates. Or you increase tax rates. But here's the problem. It's the spending side of the equation. Politicians do not want to pull this sugar high away from the public. Why? Because they're addicted, and when you take something away, people get angry. And what does that lead to? It leads to them not getting reelected. So everybody is selling us down the river to keep getting reelected. In the end, somebody gets caught holding the bag. And I think what Trump is saying is, I don't want it to be me because this wasn't my fault. Now, I certainly don't want the crash to happen, but that's certainly what Donald Trump is saying.
You know what, Dan? It's 8:35 Eastern time. Obviously, you've had your coffee. But America, we like tea. Why? Because we're taxed enough already. There's no way that we can go down that path, right, and be taxed even more. And, you know, God forbid that the new administration or the current one starts taxing businesses more. Why? Because that will lead to less jobs. Oh, my goodness. We wanted this conversation to be a high note, Dan.
Oh, you knew it wasn't going to. We're talking about the economy. Come on, John.
So I actually sympathize with the president. I want him back in office. But you know what? This is a daunting task. The stock market is doing well comparatively, but people are still suffering.
Yeah.
So what should we look forward to in terms of policy ideas without taxation?
Well, I think what's going to happen, and we're starting to see the trend already, it relates to interest rates. As we've all learned, is that when you start playing with the federal interest rate, it impacts the economy. And we're in an election year. And always in an election year, whoever is in office is going to do whatever they possibly can to avoid the economy from sinking. So I don't want to be too much of a cynic here, but I believe there's a pretty good chance that we'll see interest rates start to come down in 2024. Is it random? Nothing is random. What will that do? That will probably start to stimulate the economy and make it more difficult for a challenger to be able to unseat an incumbent. Will it be enough? Listen, it's an eternity between now and November with how many different things can happen. But I believe that one of the key things here and what's going to happen with the economy is how the interest rates are, and I'm going to use this word, manipulated between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you and I, and we've talked about this a lot. You've predicted they're going to bring those interest rates down because why? It's an election year. Of course, that's a fantastic point right there.
So, you know what, Dan, how can you actually come on First Edition and say that the Fed is going to help Biden? No, we always love to have you, Dan. You know, it is an election year. I prefer interest rates to start coming down because the economy is good, but it looks like it will start coming down because the economy is doing bad. The same thing as the American people.
Yeah.
So we'll have to leave it there. Hate to end on a down note, but we'll have to have you back soon, Dan.
Thank you.